What's going on, YouTube? Our Griff Giants is back here again, giving you my top 5 favorite prospects for the 2021 NFL Draft that's going to be held this Thursday in Cleveland. There are a lot of great prospects in this draft. It was really hard to narrow it down to a top 5, but I have a top 5, and I have 3 very doable honorable mentions as well that I need to get into. So my first honorable mention I'm going to throw out there is Alabama wide receiver Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, he didn't play in that many games this past season because of a broken ankle early in the year. But man, this guy is special at the receiver position. He's electric. He reminds me a lot. He's like a faster Odell Beckham, in my opinion. Alabama got really lucky to have him and the next guy on my honorable mentions list that we'll get into here in a few. Waddle missed most of the 2020 campaign as with the broken ankle. And it's just sad that we didn't get to see much of him. He came back in the national championship game, but like I said, Waddle has elite speed and acceleration at the wide receiver position. He makes teammates like DeVonta Smith seem slower compared to him, which is insane. You're definitely going to be seeing Waddle in the top 12 picks of this year's draft. The next guy that I have to mention will be his teammate DeVonta Smith. DeVonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, what more else can be said about DeVonta Smith? He had one of the most era-defining national championship game performances of all time against Ohio State this past year. He just separates like no other. He is by far the best separator in this draft. You get a guy, he's just going to tear zones apart, and he's going to be insane. The only concern that people have on DeVonta Smith is that he's kind of a small frame. He's 6'1", but he weighs only 166 pounds. So I will say this, I'm not worried about the weight on DeVonta Smith because he's a playmaker. And you don't find playmakers like DeVonta Smith in every draft. So that will bring us into my last honorable mention, and this guy comes from the Big Ten, and he is Northwestern offensive tackle Rashawn Slater. Slater has been a late riser for the draft this past offseason. He started off as a guy who think maybe could get first-round considerations, and now he's a guy who's almost locked into the top 12. He's have amazing tape, mainly against Ohio State's Chase Young from last year, who went number 2 overall. He's insane as an athlete. He can move well for an offensive tackle, can kick into guard. He did not play in the 2020 season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He is fundamentally strong, and he's going to be a rock-solid offensive lineman in the NFL, depending on whether you want to play him at guard or tackle. If you don't believe me, again, check out his tape against Chase Young, and you'll be impressed with him. And now that will bring us to today's sponsor of the video. And a big thank you to Concord University Broadcasting for the sponsorship on today's video. If you want to get an awesome degree where you can do wonderful things, like make videos like this, or go work at a radio station right here on campus, or work in Mountain Lion News, check out Concord University's broadcasting program. It's a great place for you to grow and expand your knowledge in the media field. So now that we're into the top 5 now, let's go into our number 5 pick for my favorite prospects in this year's draft, and that's Oregon offensive tackle Penei Sewell. Sewell is an athletic freak at the offensive tackle position, to say the least. He's an amazing athlete for an offensive tackle. He stands at 6'5" and weighs 325 pounds, and Sewell uses raw power and athleticism to dominate blocks in the Pac-12. The main concern people have had with Sewell arises with technique, as sometimes he falters in that. But in the right team, Sewell will become a top caliber offensive lineman and a consistent Pro Bowler and All-Pro tackle. I think we'll be seeing Sewell in the next decade dominating from the tackle spot, and he will almost guaranteed be in the top 10 of this year's draft class. My number 4 pick for favorite prospects will be BYU's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson bursted onto the scene this past college football season. He's improved every year at BYU, but this past season it was a big explosion onto the scene. He's an insane, there's something about Zach Wilson when you watch him play. He has that gunslinger mentality. He definitely boosted onto the scene, as I said, and his draft stock has risen maybe the most out of anybody in this class. He's great athleticism for the quarterback spot, and he's going to make an amazing quarterback in the zone read scheme. He's improved tremendously, like I said, every year in college, and I expect him to be on the fringe of top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL here in about 3 to 5 years. Presumably, Zach Wilson is going to be going to the New York Jets at number 2 overall, and I think that's a great fit for Zach Wilson. And that brings us to our number 3 prospect for the 2021 NFL Draft. And this is another guy who opted out this past season, but don't let that fool you. He's a monster on the field, and that is LSU's Ja'Marr Chase. You want to talk about physical receivers that go up and get the ball. Ja'Marr Chase is your guy for that. You got to remember if you remember how dominant Devontae Smith is your guy for that. You got to remember if you remember how dominant Devontae Smith was this past season, I don't even know if he can still match Ja'Marr Chase towards the stretch. It was that postseason for Ja'Marr Chase in that national title game was insane. He was in 2019. Jace just showed how insane of an athlete he is, how he can go get the ball. He only stands at 6'1", but he plays a lot taller and physical than that, and he weighs 208. He's going to be a problem in the red zone and all over the field in the NFL, and people have touted Ja'Marr Chase as the best X-side receiver since Julio Jones and A.J. Green. He is definitely going to be the first receiver off the board, but I don't see Chase making it past pick 7 in this year's draft. But I don't see Chase making it past pick 7 in this year's draft. If I were to compare Ja'Marr Chase to anyone who has played in the NFL in the recent years, I would say think about a prime Dez Bryant. And now this leads me into my penultimate selection for my favorite prospects in this year's draft class, and that is going to be Florida tight end Kyle Pitts. Out of all the years I've been evaluating draft talent, this might be one of my favorite prospects I've ever seen. A 6'6" tight end who runs routes and moves like a wide receiver is something. The closest thing I can compare it to is Darren Waller right now in the NFL. It's insane. Pitts bursted onto the scene, like I said, in 2020 as a dominant threat in the Florida offense, giving Kyle Trask an insane weapon to use. Like I said, plain and simple, I've never seen anything like Kyle Pitts while evaluating for the draft. He was dominant at Florida this year. He can go up and get the ball, can move. He's serviceable as a run blocker, so you don't have to take him out for running downs. And again, at 6'6" and 240 pounds, Kyle Pitts is something someone created in a lab. I'm just mind blown by the way of his potential. He has the potential to be the greatest tight end of all time. And he could be dominant like Calvin Johnson was in his prime. He's not making it out of the top 6 picks in this draft. I can guarantee you that. Kyle Pitts will be, the worst case scenario, he will be going to the Miami Dolphins at 6. And now for my number 1 pick for my favorite prospect in this year's draft class. And I mean, if you've been keeping up with the NFL draft, I think you know this selection pretty well. It's Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. We hear this a lot, but I honestly think Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback prospect to come out since Andrew Luck in 2012. You can't find too many flaws in Trevor Lawrence's game. He can move in the pocket. He has great IQ. He can get the deep ball to his receivers. It's just hard to find weaknesses in Trevor Lawrence's game. Like I said, he's arguably the most elite quarterback prospect enter since Andrew Luck. He's been a star at Clemson since his freshman year and pretty much has been a number 1 pick in the waiting as a la Andrew Luck. With his elite decision-making, ability to get outside the pocket and use his legs, and his ability to push the ball downfield, Trevor Lawrence will be the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's no question about it. And Trevor Lawrence, I could see winning MVP here in about 4 to 5 years. Well, that will do it here for my top 5 prospects for the 2021 NFL Draft. Stay tuned and check it out this Thursday as we'll upload some reactions and see who goes where and give some grades out and some more exciting draft content like that. So this has been Our Griff Giants, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and hopefully you all have a wonderful NFL Draft for your team. Hope you get the player you want. Goodbye.